But, there is the possibility that there is extant life on Mars that is creating this.
That could be evidence that there's life right now on Mars.
Barisa, a 2-year-old starting kindergarten, already claimed to have been a pilot on Mars, shocking everyone. His deep knowledge about Mars, which he wasn't taught at home, astounded his teachers. What could be so earth-shattering hidden inside the Sphinx that Egypt had to seal it off? Let us explore why the Sphinx is dangerously out of bounds. The strange genius of Barisa. When Barisa started kindergarten at age 2, his teachers were immediately struck by his advanced writing and language skills, as well as his exceptional memory. These skills were far beyond what they would expect from a child his age, leaving a lasting impression on everyone who interacted with him. However, Barisa's early development was not just limited to typical learning. He claimed to have been a pilot on Mars in a previous life, discussing the planet and extraterrestrial societies in detail. This was particularly strange to his parents, who insisted they had never exposed him to topics about outer space. Despite this, Barisa spoke with conviction and detail about the structure of Mars and its societies, which he described without any prior exposure from his family. His interest in space continued to grow, becoming his main passion. He often said that he was originally from Mars, a claim that both intrigued and confused those who studied child prodigies like him. Despite being generally reserved and quiet, his intelligence was evident and significantly above average. Barisa also talked about unexplored discoveries on Earth, specifically pointing to the Great Pyramid of Giza. He believed that if a hidden switch behind the Sphinx's ear were activated, it could transform human existence, although he wasn't sure how it worked exactly. Additionally, Barisa shared narratives of a catastrophic nuclear conflict on Mars that had wiped out most of its inhabitants. According to him, a few survivors built shelters and developed new types of weapons. His descriptions painted a vivid picture of a surviving civilization that was determined to rebuild after a devastating conflict. These stories, rich with elements of what could be seen as either advanced knowledge or imaginative fiction, show how Barisa's prodigious intellect has not only led him to excel in academic areas, but also in constructing complex, detailed alternate realities. These narratives, while enthralling, blur the lines between factual history and the creative potential of a young, gifted mind. The boy is fascinated with the idea that there are many things we don't yet know about Mars, similar to the Great Pyramid of Giza. He thinks this pyramid and other ancient places on Earth hold important information yet to be discovered. He even mentions a particular belief that there's a special lever or button hidden behind the ear of the Sphinx statue in Egypt. He claims that if someone found and used it, it could change life for all of us. Many people, however, are skeptical of these ideas. They question how realistic it is to believe in hidden devices that no one has yet found or seen. Some also mention an old hole in the Sphinx's head that was covered up long ago, which adds to the intrigue but doesn't prove anything. The Sphinx is a massive statue combining the head of a human and the body of a lion. This symbol has been around for ages and now mainly serves as a draw for tourists visiting Egypt. The Sphinx in Greek stories is a fierce creature that challenges those who pass by with difficult riddles, often with deadly consequences for those who fail to answer correctly. The Egyptian version of the Sphinx, although similar in form, is thought to be kinder and served as a protector of sacred places rather than a menacing figure. Today, the Sphinx stands as a significant piece of history and a marvel of ancient artistry, rather than a gatekeeper of hidden powers. The stories that link hidden Martian technology with ancient Egyptian landmarks capture our imagination, but they lean more towards creative storytelling than proven facts. These tales mix the thrill of space exploration with the romance of ancient civilizations, yet they rely heavily on unproven claims and speculative ideas, much like the imaginative stories children often enjoy. The Sphinx has long attracted those interested in the ancient world. It's not surprising that such an impressive piece of old architecture has caught the eye of many historians and researchers. They've spent years trying to learn more about its history, but this often ends up creating more questions than answers. The first significant modern effort to dig into the Sphinx's details started in 1817, but this monument had captured interest even earlier. In fact, by the late 1700s, it had already appeared in European art. Around 1798, French painter Vivant Denon decided to include it in his paintings. However, when his artwork was revealed, it sparked discussions and doubts among critics. Denon had painted an unusual scene, a man being pulled out from the head of the Sphinx. The painting showed two figures helping another climb out from what looked like a large hole in the side of the Sphinx's head. This choice by Denon to include such an odd detail led to a lot of guesswork and disbelief. Why did Denon add this strange element to his painting? Was it just his imagination, or was he trying to create a sense of wonder? This choice might reflect the Western fascination with uncovering hidden knowledge in Egyptian artifacts, often mixed with a sense of superiority and a touch of dramatic flair. Indeed, this enthusiasm has sometimes overshadowed more serious historical research, leading to a mix of accurate and fictional stories that experts continue to sort through today. As researchers continue to examine these artifacts, the Sphinx remains unchanged, silent, keeping its true stories well hidden. As researchers continue to examine these artifacts, the Sphinx remains unchanged, silent, keeping its true stories well hidden. This situation often makes it seem like every small discovery or artistic depiction is a significant breakthrough, even though they often lead back to the beginning. Therefore, the Sphinx isn't just a symbol of ancient skill, but also reflects our biases and the often fruitless search for clear answers in the complicated and shifting landscape of history. In the 1920s, something unexpected was discovered about the Sphinx, making people rethink its confidences. Fact or fiction? The 1700s, Denon might have simply wanted to make his painting a bit more interesting by adding an unusual feature. At that time, people didn't have the technology to take pictures from the air. Yet, when cameras could finally fly in the 1920s, they revealed something surprising on top of the Sphinx's head, a large hole that a person could fit through. This made Denon's painting much more compelling, because it seemed like he might have actually seen people climbing out of the Sphinx. This led to the question of who these people could have been. One could think that Denon, through his art, might have either guessed or even influenced future studies of the Sphinx. The discovery of the hole in the 1920s added more depth to the story, turning what might have been just a creative addition into a focus of interest for both history buffs and adventure seekers. Did Denon have access to information about the Sphinx that others did not? Or was it just a lucky guess depicted in his painting? While it's nice to think of an artist having almost prophetic insights, it's more realistic to consider that perhaps Denon had noticed something during his visit that others had missed. This revelation made people look again at not just Denon's painting, but also at what they understood about the Sphinx. It raised serious questions about what historians and archaeologists might have missed, had they been ignoring a significant detail right before their eyes. Now clearly visible with the help of modern cameras, the hole invited new generations of explorers and academics to rethink what the ancient statue might still hold. What was once possibly seen as just a touch of artistic flair by Denon now suggested an overlooked fact, challenging the usual stories told by Egyptologists about this ancient wonder. This shift in perception urged a broader reconsideration of historical and archaeological approaches, focusing attention once again on what remains undiscovered and underappreciated in the storied sands of Egypt. The history of the Sphinx is not fully understood. While researchers have made several observations, concrete information remains limited. One peculiar aspect noted is that the head of the Sphinx is made from a different material than the rest of the statue. Unlike the limestone composing most of its form, the head is crafted from a synthetic substance. This difference explains why the head stone is darker and less worn than the body. The head's resistance to wear and tear compared to the limestone body has led to suggestions that it might have been modified by people long before it became known to Western civilizations. Yet, the specific reasons and methods behind such modifications are not documented well, leaving many questions unanswered. In terms of maintenance, the Great Sphinx has undergone various restorative efforts over the years. Historical records from sources like Tour Egypt highlight that detailed studies were once undertaken to analyze the environmental impacts, such as water table levels and pollution on the Sphinx, as well as the physical characteristics of the materials it's made from. Unfortunately, these studies often didn't lead to significant follow-up or solutions, and they didn't receive much focus. This lack of attention suggests a possibly disorganized approach to the Sphinx's upkeep, where quick fixes seem to be preferred over deep, methodical investigations. The contrasting conditions between the Sphinx's head and body are intriguing, but also somewhat troubling. It suggests that while the head has been preserved or altered using advanced techniques from an earlier time, the body has been left to endure the natural elements. This disparity raises further questions about the ancient techniques used for its construction and the ongoing efforts to preserve this monumental statue. The continuous presence of workers inside the Sphinx's head for restoration over different periods indicates ongoing human intervention. However, the details of these interventions are not always clear or well recorded. This situation points to an ongoing struggle to maintain the Sphinx effectively, where significant actions may be taken but are not always well planned or documented. Overall, the efforts to study and preserve the Great Sphinx appear fragmented and sporadic. While the fascination with this ancient statue is widespread, the actual work to understand and maintain it seems to fall short of what might be expected for such a historically significant monument. This scenario suggests a need for more focused and comprehensive approaches to studying and preserving the Great Sphinx, moving beyond the surface-level fascination to address the underlying challenges in its conservation. The story about hidden rooms beneath the Sphinx, which surfaced in 1935 during its restoration, seemed more like a plot from a fictional tale rather than a fact-based historical event. Back then, reports claimed that a hole in the Sphinx's head led to a network of underground rooms right under the Great Pyramids. The media quickly named this network a secret city and suggested it was a major discovery. Many newspapers at the time wrote about this discovery, predicting it would be a significant moment in history. However, strangely, no well-known Egyptologist or historical researcher confirmed these reports. After the initial excitement, the academic world didn't say anything more about it. No expert or scholar followed up with studies or provided any evidence that these chambers were real. This absence of validation from knowledgeable professionals raises doubts. Was there any truth to these exciting claims, or were they just exaggerated stories aimed at capturing public attention? It's interesting that such a supposedly important finding was ignored by the experts and faded away without further scrutiny. One might wonder if the stories about the underground chambers were just a way to stir up excitement and attract funding or attention to Egyptology. Or maybe the claims were so exaggerated that serious scholars didn't consider them worth investigating. The lack of engagement from the scholarly community suggests that the so-called discovery might have been just a figment of someone's imagination, designed more to fill newspaper columns than to contribute to historical knowledge. Years later, a Japanese team used new technology to explore what might lie beneath the Sphinx, the giant tunnels of the Great Sphinx. Historians and Egyptologists' silence about this discovery speaks volumes. It likely indicates that the supposed underground chambers were not a genuine archaeological finding, but rather a tale concocted for the sake of sensational news. This scenario highlights how important it is to approach such dramatic claims with a healthy dose of skepticism, especially when they lack the backing of credible experts. In 1987, a group of researchers from Waseda University in Tokyo, headed by Saku Yoshimura, went to Egypt to study the area around the Great Sphinx. They brought with them a new piece of technology, an electromagnetic-sounding survey radar designed to peer beneath the surface and create detailed, three-dimensional images of what lay underneath the iconic statue. The project's goal was clear: to map out the underground landscape near the Sphinx and identify any unusual features. This kind of technology was groundbreaking at the time, and it promised to bring to light details that were previously hidden. As they began their work, the radar detected some unexpected patterns, suggesting there might be unknown hollow spaces or discrepancies in the rock below. While this might sound exciting, the discovery wasn't as clear-cut as finding a hidden room or uncovering a lost artifact. Instead, these radar blips were ambiguous, raising questions rather than providing answers. What exactly were these anomalies? Could they be air pockets, gaps in the geological layers, or something more significant? The team needed to analyze the data further to understand their findings better. The process of verifying these initial results was slow and rigorous. In archaeology, new discoveries must be approached with caution. Many times in the past, initial findings that seemed groundbreaking turned out to be minor after further investigation. So, the Waseda team's findings were met with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism by the wider academic community. Indeed, dramatic claims about uncovering new chambers or finding hidden artifacts often grab headlines, but the reality of such scientific endeavors is usually more complex and less sensational. The radar data provided a more detailed look at what lay beneath the Sphinx, but interpreting this data was challenging. The researchers had to consider numerous possibilities and ensure their conclusions were backed by solid evidence. The implications of their findings extended beyond just the academic community. Such discoveries can alter our understanding of historical sites and offer new insights into ancient civilizations. However, they can also lead to debates and disagreements among experts about the significance and interpretation of the data. As the research continued, the Waseda team worked diligently to make sense of the radar images. Each potential void or anomaly had to be examined through the lens of geological and archaeological knowledge. This required collaboration between scientists from different fields, from geology to archaeology, each bringing their expertise to help unravel the complex data. Despite the advanced technology and the expertise of the researchers, many questions remained unanswered. The project highlighted how much we still have to learn about ancient structures like the Sphinx and reminded us that each new technology, while powerful, also brings new challenges. The story of the Waseda team's expedition is a testament to the ongoing quest for knowledge about our past, a quest that is often as complicated as it is fascinating. In the end, their work provided valuable data and spurred further research, contributing to our ongoing dialogue about ancient civilizations and their legacies. When a team from Japan investigated the area around Egypt's Great Sphinx, they uncovered a complex network of unseen tunnels and chambers beneath the iconic statue. Their findings revealed an extensive underground structure, including passages that wove through the earth below and within the ancient monument itself. South of the Sphinx, they found a particularly large tunnel, both wide and tall, connecting two distinct chambers, one small and one larger. These chambers led to a series of additional tunnels that extended in multiple directions, hinting at a sophisticated system planned with specific purposes in mind. Apart from these interconnected tunnels, the team also discovered several isolated shafts and empty spaces within the Sphinx's body, which didn't connect to the main tunnel system. The existence of these separate cavities prompted questions about their intended use. Were they part of a larger, unfinished project, or did they have a specific, perhaps ceremonial role? Moreover, the complexity and scale of this subterranean network suggested that the Sphinx might have served more complex roles than previously thought, possibly linked to the daily or spiritual lives of its creators. This newfound complexity beneath one of the world's most famous statues not only provides insights into ancient engineering techniques, but also raises significant questions about the social and religious practices of the time. What purposes did these underground structures serve? Who built them? And with what intentions? The discovery invites scholars to re-evaluate their understanding of the civilization that built the Sphinx, offering a glimpse into their advanced engineering and possibly their organized societal structures. However, each new piece of information seems to complicate the overall understanding of the Sphinx's purpose and the civilization that built it, rather than clarifying it. It seems that with every tunnel unearthed, we find ourselves facing even more questions about the past, highlighting our ongoing struggle to fully grasp the complexities of ancient societies. Underneath the massive Sphinx, clear images show there are tunnels and shafts, but many experts still refuse to acknowledge them. This reluctance to continue investigations after initial surveys is strange and leaves numerous questions hanging without clear answers, such as the unresolved issue about the hole observed in the Sphinx's head. Historical documents, including photos and paintings, have shown it was there, yet now we can only guess at why it was sealed off. Historians started questioning why many clues about the Sphinx remain uninvestigated. Nefertiti's vanished influence. The ancient Egyptians have given us a legacy filled with impressive creations, from their grand pyramids to the Sphinx itself. These significant historical contributions should prompt more than just awe. They should drive us to seek deeper understanding. Yet, often, researchers and historians seem to dodge providing solid answers, choosing instead to float theories that do not fully explain the phenomena. This tendency can feel like an avoidance tactic, a way to sidestep the rigorous digging and studying that these important findings rightly demand. It seems as though the academic community today is okay with letting these ancient findings remain unclear instead of putting in the effort needed to dig deeper and find real answers. There is a pattern of stopping short of thorough investigation, which leaves anyone interested in these historical sites feeling frustrated and unsatisfied. Why is there such a hesitance to unearth the full stories behind these archaeological wonders? This lack of curiosity and persistence in uncovering the true stories of our past feels like a missed opportunity to connect with our history on a deeper level. Moreover, the focus often placed on Nefertiti's appearance rather than her intellect suggests a superficial approach to her legacy. It's easier to discuss her legendary beauty than to tackle the hard questions about her leadership and influence in a time of great change. Similarly, the hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx are frequently mentioned in passing as intriguing footnotes rather than as critical subjects of study. What could be learned if these sites were fully explored and studied without the filters of traditional narratives holding back the research? The continuous lack of thorough investigation in these areas seems to indicate a preference for maintaining the status quo rather than uncovering new, potentially disruptive information. Her rise to prominence began soon after her husband Akhenaten ascended to the throne. Together, they introduced the worship of Aten, the sun disk, which replaced the traditional worship of many gods with the worship of one. This radical change not only altered the religious practices, but also shook the foundation of societal and cultural norms that had been established for generations. Nefertiti was not just a spectator, but a central figure in these religious changes. She was often portrayed nearly as prominently as the pharaoh himself, a rare occurrence for royal wives of the time. Her images filled the temples of Aten, symbolizing her extraordinary status. However, These drastic changes also sparked unrest and dissatisfaction among the priests and the people who were devoted to the old gods, creating a backdrop of political and religious tension. Just as quickly as she rose to a position of power, Nefertiti disappeared from historical texts, leaving behind very few clues about what happened to her. This sudden end to her documented presence has led to endless speculation. Was her disappearance due to losing favor, a deliberate removal, or simply an omission in historical records by those who restored the old religious order after Akhenaten's death? Each possibility seems to lead to more questions than it answers. Moreover, the intense focus on her disappearance often overshadows her actual contributions to Egypt's history. It turns the discussion about a significant historical figure into something like a sensational tabloid story. This not only makes light of her impact, but also shows a common tendency to focus more on sensationalizing rather than analyzing the historical accounts of influential women. In ancient Egypt, the rise of the sun disk Aten to the top of the religious hierarchy marked a significant shift. This change was led by Akhenaten, who not only promoted Aten as the foremost god, but also built a new capital called Amarna. This city was dedicated entirely to Aten's worship. Akhenaten's actions were a strategic move to centralize control over both government and religion. Nefertiti, Akhenaten's wife and co-ruler, played a critical role in this religious reform. Her involvement was not just supportive, but central to the strategy. She used her influence to help establish the new religious practices across Egypt. As queen, Nefertiti held significant power, often portrayed in statues and paintings holding symbols of royal authority, which were usually only held by pharaohs. These portrayals were not merely for decoration, but were intended to show Nefertiti as an active participant in the religious overhaul. The establishment of Amarna and the promotion of Atenism were not just about religious change, but were also a way to concentrate power. By changing the religious focus, Akhenaten and Nefertiti positioned themselves at the core of both political and spiritual leadership. This period is often noted for its dramatic change, but it also clearly shows how religion was used to support political motives. This transformation had a wide-reaching impact, as it upset the traditional religious order that had been in place for centuries. By placing themselves at the forefront of religious worship, Akhenaten and Nefertiti ensured they controlled a central aspect of daily life. Their actions demonstrate how deeply intertwined religion and politics were in ancient Egypt, and how leaders could manipulate spiritual beliefs for their own gain. This historical episode, often seen through the lens of religious innovation, also sheds light on the use of religious reform for consolidating authority. The art depicting her elongated neck and notable crown clearly marks her as a symbol of beauty and grace, admired by both her contemporaries and later generations. Despite her renowned status and powerful influence, the final chapters of Nefertiti's life remain filled with differing theories and guesses about her end. Despite new discoveries, the question of Nefertiti's final resting place remains unsolved. The lethal silence of Nefertiti's lost tomb. The most commonly accepted theory suggests that Nefertiti died during her husband's rule and was buried in a royal tomb in the Valley of the Kings. Yet, no clear evidence has been found that confirms her burial site, which continues to engage both archaeologists and historians with its absence. Another theory argues that Nefertiti outlived her husband and governed Egypt as a pharaoh under the name Neferneferuaten. This idea is somewhat supported by historical records of a female ruler named Neferneferuaten who followed Akhenaten and continued his religious reforms, although in a less extreme way. However, whether this ruler was indeed Nefertiti or another royal figure is still unclear and a subject of ongoing debate. In recent times, new archaeological efforts have brought fresh insights into this debate, uncovering evidence from the sands of Egypt that suggests she might have been placed in a yet-to-be-found chamber away from the traditional royal burial sites. These discoveries have sparked renewed interest and discussion among scholars, pushing them to explore further and speculate about her final resting place. Yet, these findings also highlight the ongoing challenges and the frequent frustrations faced in historical and archaeological research. What might seem like significant breakthroughs often lead to more questions than answers, illustrating the difficult pursuit of factual certainty in studying the past. As researchers continue to unearth and examine, the search for conclusive evidence about Nefertiti's fate shows the complex nature of piecing together historical puzzles with limited clues, often leading to more speculation than confirmation. The discussion turns to the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Team, led by British Egyptologist Nicholas Reeves, had, back in 2015, suggested that there might be a hidden chamber behind the walls of Tut's tomb. They thought this hidden space might hold the long-lost grave of Queen Nefertiti. Although they were hopeful, later investigations did not confirm the existence of any such chamber in Tutankhamun's tomb. Nonetheless, the idea of possibly finding Nefertiti's grave still excites scholars and those keen on history. If we ever find Nefertiti's grave, it would do more than solve the riddle of her sudden disappearance. It would reveal much about the religious and political climate of ancient Egypt during the chaotic Amarna period. But even as experts continue to look for her grave, Nefertiti remains an influential figure, symbolizing female power in ancient Egypt. Viewed in different ways, as a respected queen, a strong ruler, or a historical figure swallowed by time, Nefertiti's legacy remains strong, presenting her as a timeless icon whose influence endures. Her sudden vanishing continues to attract attention, surrounded by ongoing speculation and dramatic theories. From her crucial role during the Amarna period to her hidden end after her husband's death, Nefertiti's story is told on a wide canvas that underscores the dramatic and lasting influence of ancient civilizations. It is a tale that keeps captivating and inspiring, a story about power, influence, and the continuous human effort to uncover the past, though solid proof, continues to elude discovery. This narrative underscores the continued efforts to connect with our historical roots, highlighting how discoveries from the past can illuminate the complexities of historical figures and their times. As researchers press forward, the promise of uncovering new data keeps historians and archaeologists tethered to the possibilities of significant finds. Each potential discovery offers a chance to fill gaps in our understanding of ancient times, providing clearer pictures of how people once lived, governed, and influenced the world around them. Despite the challenges and often fruitless searches, the pursuit of historical understanding doesn't wane, reflecting a deep-seated desire to piece together the jigsaw of human history. As archaeologists sift through layers of sand, they continue to find new clues about Queen Nefertiti's life. Each discovery seems to suggest we're getting closer to understanding who she was and her influence during her time. Yet despite these findings, a complete understanding of her life remains elusive. Each new piece of evidence, while adding to our knowledge, often leads to more questions than concrete answers. The continuous stream of discoveries about Nefertiti captivates many, sparking discussions and debates. Yet it's important to question the true value of these findings. Are we really learning more about her, or are we simply enjoying the thrill of the search? It seems that with each new finding, experts and enthusiasts alike dive into a pool of speculation and educated guesses rather than gaining clear insights. This pursuit of understanding Nefertiti not only sheds light on her, but also reflects our broader desire to connect with history. The pieces of pottery, jewelry, and writings lift the veil on the ancient world, yet they also serve as a reminder of the complexities of historical truths. Each artifact adds a layer to her story, yet the complete narrative of her life remains just beyond our grasp. As we piece together these fragments, we must remain mindful of the limitations of our findings. While the discoveries are exciting, they are but pieces of a larger puzzle that may never be fully completed. As new evidence surfaces, the academic community and the public alike are drawn into discussions that often blend fact with creative interpretation. So as we discuss these new pieces of evidence, let's maintain a focused discussion on what they tell us and what they cannot. Your insights and questions are valuable to this ongoing effort to understand a pivotal figure in ancient history. Please contribute to the conversation in the comments section below and keep following for more deep dives into the sands of time that continue to reveal yet also conceal the truths of history. What do you think is the most controversial implication of these findings? Like, comment, and subscribe for more.